Well, you heard the story early on of young Albert Schweitzer. Did you know that later in his life, he coined the term reverence for life and used it as a concept, used that concept as a foundation for how he chose to live in his world. It was his ethics that he founded when he thought of that term, ethics for life. He went on to say, reverence for life contains within it the rationale of the commandment to love, and it calls for compassion for all life. He goes on to say, I must interpret the life around me as I interpret the life that is my own. My life is full of meaning for me, and the life around me must feel significant to itself. If I am to expect others to respect my life, then I must respect all other life, however strange it might seem to me. And not only other human life, but all kinds of life. Life above mine, life below. We need a boundless ethic which will include all living things. His view of reverence for life led Schweitzer in many different directions. He believed that to cut a flower needlessly was a violation of that flower's foundational ethical life. The flower, he believed, had the same right to be fulfilled in the natural life cycle as he did. Thus, he let it grow wherever it was, not to adorn his home, but to fulfill its potential. This view of reverence for life also, later in Schweitzer's life, led him to write about and eventually to suggest to President Kennedy that there should be an international agreement to stop proliferation of nuclear weapons through international inspection. His work eventually led to a non-proliferation treaty with Russia. Schweitzer also wrote, reverence for life means being seized by the unfathomable, forward-moving will which is inherent in all being. It raises us above the perception of the world as objects for our use and makes us into the tree among other trees, interconnected by our roots and branches, that is safe from drought because it is planted near water. I think this is an interesting image and has the potential for some deep, meditative, effective, personal meditation. We might imagine ourselves as that tree among other trees, all other beings, interconnected at our roots and our branches, all drinking from the water of life. This, from his perspective, holy connection to all life is intangible, yet it also can tangibly affect our behavior by making us stop and affirm with reverence each life we come into contact with. And not only that we come into contact with, but also that we choose to bring into our lives in some form or fashion. This reverence also offers us an opportunity to reflect on the sacrifices of other forms of life for our sustenance. This is a sacred view of all life. So my friends, as you think about this term, reverence for life, whether you picture it as a humanistic view of the natural life cycle or as a holy, sacred reverence for life, how we treat each other and all living things on this planet is part of how we live out this ethic of reverence for life. I believe all of us as Unitarian Universalists are called to reflect on this concept of reverence for life in all that we do, in all that we're in contact with, as we celebrate the beauty and wonder of this Earth Day, and as we can, and I would think should, affirm that we resist through all of our thoughts, words, and deeds, treating any form of life, including this planet, as an object simply for our use alone. I was thinking about this, and what came to mind was food. Something so simple, something we interact with every day. It's easy to treat food as an object to be consumed. What changes in our thoughts, words, and deeds when we experience food as once living organisms that had to give up their lives for our sustenance, for our very existence? What changes when we reflect on how food is produced and how that impacts the whole climate, the whole of Mother Earth, and everything on it? What changes when we hear how the trash that we put in the recycling bin is being buried in trash heaps and not actually recycled? I just learned about this. Steve Snyder, who manages our property here, was talking to the people that pick up our trash and our recycling, and they admitted to him that all the people that pick up our recycling, they just take it to the trash heap. It doesn't actually get recycled. And so what do we do when we think about this? We thought we were doing something to make a difference. Perhaps this Earth Day is more than just a celebration. Perhaps it could be a time of resistance. If we choose to resist giving in to societal pressure and ignoring all these problems, or listening to the television, social media, and grocery stores and our peers who just say it's food, nothing more, or it's just trash. Maybe resistance could be taking a few moments to look at our attitudes about other living things, whether we think of them as being higher or lower in their value as compared to us. You know, I was working on the sermon, and I was looking at the news, and I heard about the Florida Senate giving final approval to a bill that would prohibit investment strategies that Governor DeSantis deemed as woke. This law would require investment just for economic gain alone, without consideration of its impact on people or other living things or this planet. I got angry. I mean, I'm not generally an angry person. I think, I try not to be. But I'm going to resist. I'm going to find ways to resist. And I'm going to be very conscious of my investment. I'm fortunate that my investment is through the UUA, and the UUA does ethical investing. But I need to do more than that. I feel I need to do more than that. I don't know if ethical investing is an option for you. but I would certainly encourage you to look into what your investing is. There are so many ways we can act in reverence for life, and this is just one of many. You know, as we reflect on Earth Day as being a day of resistance, one way that you can take action as Unitarian Universalists is through the UU Ministry for the Earth, or the UU Association Office at the United Nations, or the UU Association Green Sanctuary Program. We've talked in our Social Justice Committee about being a Green Sanctuary congregation. All of these groups are places where you can make a difference. But you know, they all came together and they launched a program called Create Climate Justice Initiative. Create Climate Justice Net was created to give Unitarian Universalists and environmental justice activists and coalition partners a valuable tool for education, collaboration, and organizing. Right there, right now, you can do something. You can be part of this. Their current priority focus are strengthening Unitarian Universalist communications and mutual support networks for climate justice, mobilizing Unitarian Universalists in solidarity with indigenous frontline communities, and supporting the just transition to an ecological civilization through partnership and civic engagement. One way you can resist in support of Earth Day is by joining Create Climate Justice. I joined this week. I wanted to be more educated. I wanted to be more aware of what witnessing is going on for climate justice. And I was really trying to imagine how I could support a just transition to an ecological civilization. What that might look like. What I might be able to do to be part of that. So I urge you, in the spirit of love, which is the foundation of our faith, to celebrate and resist on this Earth Day. Unitarian Universalist Reverend Julie Taylor reflects on what love might mean to Unitarian Universalists in this time of resistance. She writes, "Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It is not proud. Love bears all things." We know these words. Use these words when we refer to one person loving another. Love looks different when we relate to systems. Love looks different when we face injustice. Love looks different when we decide to treat all life forms with respect because each life form has worth and dignity. It is then that love is resistant, that love is defiant. It is not backing down, it is staying in the streets. Love is holding each other and ourselves accountable. Love is challenging because none of us is free until all of us are free. Love is protest. Love is protest. And love bears all things.